Alrighty, we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of In Depth with David. This is episode 3 of this Red Sox recap series that me and Ricky are doing. How are you doing today, Ricky? Thanks again for joining me.
Pretty solid. Yep, doing all right.
Awesome. So today we will be recapping the Red Sox series sweep against the Baltimore Orioles, and it's quite the turn of events because just over a week ago, the Orioles were the ones who gave us a taste of their own medicine, and they ended up sweeping us in the first series of the year. But we go to Baltimore and we take care of business. Got to give credit to Baltimore. You know, they gave us trouble in all 3 of those games. I believe they had a lead in the first 2 games, and they wouldn't go away in the last game. So, I mean, for a team that MLB.com, gave a 0.0% chance of making the playoffs, they held their own against us. So yeah, we'll definitely get into MLB.com a little bit later too. We have some things to say about them. Me and Ricky have been talking about off camera how we're not really too pleased with the authors over there. But just what are your takeaways from the series against the Orioles here? General takeaways.
Basically, like as you said, the kind of they wouldn't go away kind of thing. I think that's a really good way to put it. That's kind of how they were against the Yankees too. They did take one of the games when they played the Yankees, but one game they did kind of get blown out. But the other 2 they kind of hung in there a bit. And obviously when they beat the Red Sox, they were there. So I think the Orioles are kind of on the cusp of something. I think they're kind of preparing themselves, and they've got some good bats. They've got some solid outfielders, Santander and Mullins in particular. I really like those 2 guys. And Mancini, at least in this series, looked like he's kind of getting back. And obviously with him, you know, you got to give it time because he was out for such a, serious health reasoning. So it's going to take a bit, but yeah, I think the Orioles, you could see from how they hung in there, and you could see from their pitching, and they look way better than they did a couple years ago when they won like 30 something games.
Yeah, they had a couple of years consecutively. I think the year we won the World Series, they won 47 games, and I don't think they've won more than 60 games in a single season in a while. So
Right.
they've kind of been the laughing stocks of the MLB. But so far, I mean, they're holding their own. Honestly, I mean, if you're an O's fan, we won't talk about this for too much longer, but you got to be happy with how the team's performing so far. I definitely enjoy it. I mean, we'll get into that too, how us as Red Sox fans are enjoying being in first place. We're pretty rational. We're not like all these other fans where we think we're going to be in first place for the whole season, but we're just going to enjoy the heck out of it while it lasts. But yeah, that's just basically our general takeaways. So we're going to get right into the series here. So game 1, the pitching matchup was Matt Harvey versus Eduardo Rodriguez, and we were able to see Matt Harvey, I believe, in the first series opening. I could be wrong. I think we faced him in the opening series as well to begin the year. But if people don't remember, Matt Harvey, big pitcher on the Mets, came onto the scene in 2013 and had a great year for them. But his career was kind of derailed by having Tommy John and a lot of innings limits over the preceding years with the Mets. So he's just kind of trying to find a way to revive his career with the Orioles. And then for the Red Sox, Eduardo Rodriguez making his first start in almost a year and a half. Obviously, he missed all of last year, the shortened season, with a heart condition that he developed from COVID. So it's just really good to see him on the mound here. He didn't have his best stuff in this game, but he did good enough for someone, again, who hasn't pitched in over a year. He went 5 innings, didn't walk anyone, gave up 3 runs. I think he got like 7 strikeouts or something like that. So honestly, that's all you can really ask for from Eduardo Rodriguez after being away from the game for a while. So what did you think about the pitching by Erod in the first game?
I think for being out as long as he was, I think it was all right. I mean, he did give up. Was it 2 home runs or 1?
I think it was 1. I want to say.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, it was 2. So he gave up a shot in the first inning, and then he gave up 1 in like the 5th.
Mm-hmm. So he did. There was a little trouble in that. You know, people were able to hit off him, obviously, which is expected. But from my notes, he had, I think, 7 strikeouts.
7 strikeouts. Yep.
He had a pretty solid outing. So
Right. And as I said, the big thing for me is him not walking anyone, because walk is just obviously a free way to get on base, and you want to try to eliminate that as much as possible if you're a pitcher. So the fact that he was able to do that, even though he hasn't pitched in a while, is encouraging, and hopefully he can keep that up. But getting into the game, Rafael Devers in the first inning finally starting to have a little bit of breakout party. This is going to be a theme as we continue to discuss the series. He had a straightaway homer in the first inning to put us up. Both Erod and Matt Harvey, they both got off to rough starts in the first, and as we get into this, the first two games kind of mirrored each other, where both teams got off to a hot start, but innings 2 through 5, it kind of cooled down a bit, the pitchers, and they were able to get some control and maintain themselves and their composure. So Devers gets us up 1-0, and then we get to an amazing moment, which we're just going to take a little time to talk about. It happened in the first series, but keep in mind that this was the Orioles' home opener, so this was the first time they were able to see Trey Mancini play in front of the home crowd, and he got a great ovation from not only the Orioles, but also the Red Sox, so I just thought that was a great thing to see. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I definitely loved seeing that too. Just the support on both teams. That really just shows that it's bigger than baseball, obviously, just that compassion. And I remember reading an article where Erod had a moment with him because they both suffered pretty severe health battles in the last year. So it was cool for the two of them to have a little time to talk with one another. And yeah, it's great to see Mancini playing again. I really hope he continues to do well this series. He definitely showed that he's starting to heat up, his efforts at first, his efforts at the plate. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I'm probably going to be following him this year just to see how he does. But yeah, that was a really awesome moment for sure. Definitely a highlight this year so far.
Absolutely. And I love these moments all across sports where it's, in this instance, bigger than baseball. Just one of my soda drinks I was drinking earlier. But I love this. I love these moments where it's just bigger than baseball and bigger than sports, because if this pandemic has really proved anything to us, that there's bigger things than just, swinging a bat and hitting a ball. So these human moments I just love seeing. But getting back to the game, I do have to diss Dave O'Brien and Dennis Eckersley here, because Ryan Mountcastle hits his first home run of the year to tie the game in the bottom of the first. And before the very pitch that he hits the ball, the two announcers on the NESN broadcast say something like, "Oh, he doesn't have a home run this season. It'd be a shame if he hits one right here." And that's exactly what happened. So they dissed Erod, just very disrespectful on their part. So Mountcastle is able to tie it up 2-2. And as we said, Harvey and Erod both kind of settled down until the fifth. And then Severino gives the O's the lead temporarily, and I believe the bottom of the fifth. So they go up 3-2, in the fourth. And then later in the fourth, this is where it gets interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but Rio Ruiz got hit by a pitch and he was swinging at it. But there was little controversy as was he swinging away while he got hit by the pitch, which if he did, then that counts as a strike and he does get a free base. So initially the umpires ruled that he got hit by the pitch and he would be able to take a base, which is not what you want to hear as a Red Sox fan, because you don't want to put anyone on base. But the umpires went to the review TVs that they always do, took a few minutes to mull over it, and they actually determined that Ruiz swung at the ball. And then the manager, Hyde, for the Orioles, comes out of the dugout, and he's absolutely angry with the umpires for the decision. He ends up getting himself ejected, but nonetheless, Rio Ruiz swung at that one, and then the very next pitch he strikes out, and he got really ticked off. He threw his bat on the ground in his helmet. Do you think they made the right call there? Do you think he swung at that one, or do you think he should have been awarded first base?
It's tough to say, but watching it back, because I watched when I was looking at highlights to refresh from Thursday, in particular that chain of events, the Ruiz swing and then Hyde and everything like that, everyone's response. That's tough. I don't know. Like you said, it's tough to get someone on base, but I would almost consider it a walk personally. I don't know. It was tough to tell, but
Because the rule of thumb with those plays is if when you're swinging, if the bat is parallel with the tip of home plate, that means that you went and it's a strike. But they didn't show us any angles of that, so it's really hard to tell. I kind of understand both sides of it, and I understand Hyde was just kind of sticking up for his player, Rio Ruiz, there to the umpires, but obviously we're not complaining as Sox fans that he got called out, or that was called a strike. So that was a little bit of probably the biggest dramatic moment in this game. Then in the very next top of the fifth, Cedric Mullins, who you just talked about, and who's had a great start to this year so far, had an excellent diving catch in the fifth to rob Kike Hernandez. Just a fantastic play. We both talked about this before. He's just a player on the rise. He really killed us in that first series. I think he had a 5-hit game, and he just keeps going in this series. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the future.
For sure.
Then the Red Sox, after not being able to do so many things offensively for a few innings, they were able to break open the game in the sixth once Matt Harvey was relieved by Fry. I'm not sure what his first name is. Let me look at it here. Paul Fry came into the game, the reliever, and they were able to get the bases loaded on him in the sixth inning. Christian Arroyo, who, he seems like a good serviceable utility guy, was able to come into the game and get an RBI groundout to tie up the game. And then my guy, my favorite player so far, Franchi Cordero, was able to come in and get a clutch RBI single to give us the lead, and it turned out to be the lead for good at 4-3 in the sixth inning. What are your thoughts on Cordero so far? I mean, I know you know how I feel about him. I might have a man crush on him or whatever, but what are your impressions on him so far? Because he's really made a good impression. He's been really clutch in these first 9 games.
Yeah, I definitely would agree. I think we talked a lot about him in the Rays recap. I think there's a lot that could be said about him in this Orioles recap too. Obviously, moments like that. He's really showing out. I think he's definitely proving himself. I definitely am excited to see what he does. So I don't know if I'm as big of a fan of him as you are, but yeah, he's definitely showing some promise. I don't mind him as like a consistent rotation guy. He's solid. I like him so far.
I just hope more Sox fans start to respect him, because so many people, when we traded for him, were just mad that we got Benintendi, and they looked at someone like Cordero like, oh my God, what's he going to do?
Right.
And he's had so many clutch moments so far. He's played good in the outfield. He's got some good hits. I mean, I'd love to keep him around for a while. And he's only 26 too. I thought he was older, but and he's under contract for 2 more years. I mean, I think the Red Sox might have gotten a steal here. I mean, this is probably me embellishing very early in the season, but I like what he's done so far. So he was able to give us a lead 4-3. And then in the very next instance, there's one of many base running blunders, which we're going to talk about in the series, where Marwin Gonzalez gets caught in a pickle between third and home.
Yeah.
I believe it was Fry again, or it might have been another reliever that came in after him. Could have been Tate. Threw a wild pitch, and Marwin Gonzalez was at third, and he thought he could make it home. But then he changed his mind and tried to go back to third, and he ended up getting tagged out. So we'll get into this later, but it is kind of frustrating me and concerning me how early in the season we've had so many base running errors so far. Obviously, in the Rays series, we talked about it with JD Martinez screwing us in that second game of that Rays series, where he thought Devers was going to hit one deep, and he rounded third, and he was all the way at home when the ball was caught. So that really hurt us, even though we went on to win that game. Mm-hmm. So these base running blunders, I mean, I really hope they clean them up, because it's gonna cause us issues if we don't get this settled now. Granted, these games we're winning with our offense, but we're going to need every run we can get, because our pitching, as we both said, just isn't that strong. So we need to limit our offensive mistakes as much as possible. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that blunder, kind of the spin move. Yeah, that definitely was one point that I put down in my notes as well. That's a little bit frustrating so far. I definitely think there's been some base running issues. I don't know how to feel about that, but that I think, out of like a point of critique for this team, I think that's definitely something to kind of keep an eye on from here on out. So.
Right, and we'll talk about it more as the series progresses, because there's more of these blunders, unfortunately. But in the very next inning, JD Martinez continues his hot start. I don't know why that was hard for me to say. And he gets an RBI double to make it 5-3, gives us some insurance. And then Marwin Gonzalez ends up redeeming himself and gets an RBI single to make it 6-3. Kike Hernandez adds on a homer. So really, once it hit the sixth inning and the Red Sox started piling it on and the Orioles pitching, this game was over. Shout out to Garrett Whitlock for 2 innings of shutdown relief in this game. And then, as we talked about before we went live, Matt Barnes came in for the 9th.
Matt Barnes. Sheesh. Matt Barnes, yeah, his 9th inning was a nice inning. Pretty solid so far. He might be the ace. No, he might be the closer for this team in tough situations. I definitely think moving forward, we'll see how he continues to do. And Matt Barnes, like you said last time too, he's been on this team for a while. He's pretty experienced. It's kind of good because in past years, Matt Barnes has been kind of unreliable. So I'm honestly hoping he continues this. And if the Red Sox do, have that chance where they potentially make the postseason or late in the season when there's kind of a more of a push, I think Matt Barnes, if he continues to play, could definitely be a key guy out of that bullpen in clutch situations. But yeah, that particular 9th inning was solid pitching. I mean, I know it's the Orioles and they were already down, but he looked great and he's looked good so far this year in the games he's pitched relief. So, he might be the guy moving forward. I don't know, but yeah, definitely solid from him, gotta say.
So are you saying you'd feel comfortable with him being the closer moving forward, or would you rather move him back into that setup role that he's been used to?
I don't know. I would say continue how he's been, kind of like a closer. And if he continues to pitch as well as he has in that spot, I think maybe they could keep him as the closer. But he's not bad in that other position where he's pitching a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. He could do either, but I'd kind of like to see, honestly, because their bullpen has a lot of new faces and some guys that are younger. I don't know. So I'm kind of interested to see what they do with Matt Barnes. Honestly, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't mind having him as the closer if that's who they decide to, end up going with. So.
I'm with you. I mean, as we talked about, he's been on this team for a while, and I think he's earned the right to close if Cora wants to go in that direction. Also, if he wants to be a setup man, that's perfectly fine with me as well. But, it's funny also because you mentioned that he's the ace joke from the 2015 season, and I actually went to a Red Sox game in 2015 where Matt Barnes started. It was Red Sox Indians, and they tried to experiment with him being a starter, and I think he went 2 innings and gave up 3 runs or something, or 8 runs. So that closed the book on that experience. But nonetheless, Matt Barnes shuts them down in the 9th. He was actually 2 pitches away from an immaculate inning. I don't know if you knew that. Chris Sale had a couple of those in 2019, and it's where you throw only strikes the whole inning. And the percentage chance of that happening is ridiculous. So would have been cool if Barnes could have gotten that done. But nonetheless, the Sox win 7-3. We take game 1. Now we head into game 2, and the matchup is Zimmerman versus Richards. Garrett Richards, that is.
Right.
Garrett Richards obviously came off a horrid first start in a Red Sox uniform. I think he gave up 7 runs, 8 runs in 4 innings or something like that. Just not good against these same Orioles, so he does have experience against this lineup. How do you think he pitched in this game?
I'll just say average. I think that's how I'll put it. It didn't blow me away, but it was obviously nowhere near as poor as his performance in the first series. Yeah, it was okay. I think, did he wind up getting the W or?
I think he got the W. So he went, I think they had the lead, or they took the lead after he went out, or he was still in the game. So I don't think he ended up getting the victory. Yeah. But like you said, I mean, average, I'd say that's a good way to put it. He went 5 innings. I think he gave up 3 runs. 2 runs, 3 hits, 3 walks, and then 4 strikeouts. I mean, I'll take that from him. I think the Red Sox just really expect him to be maybe a 4 or 5 guy, and if we could get that over number 4 or number 5 pitcher, that's fine with me. I don't expect the world out of Garrett Richards, but as long as he doesn't do what he did last time against Baltimore and give up 8 runs in 2 innings, then we'll be in business. This game, if I had to give a title to it, I would call it the Rafael Devers experience, because we often look at like the Celtics. I feel like Rafael Devers is kind of like the Marcus Smart of the Red Sox, where
Definitely.
fans love him in one moment, but they want to rip his head off in another moment. This game kind of just was an embodiment of that whole mentality, where Devers continues to own the Orioles in the second game. He starts off the first inning with an RBI single to have us get up in the game. And then, do you want to go over that base running blunder he had where he got in a pickle between first and second? How about you go over that for a second?
Was it the base running blunder? Okay, I was thinking of there was another blunder he had. I don't know if
we'll get into that. Oh yeah, we'll get into.
I'm trying to remember this base running, because the other blunder was what stood out to me more. But so I forget what was happening. Wasn't he running from first to second and he got like caught in the middle, kind of like Marvin's first game?
So he was trying to steal second and he got caught in a pickle.
Right.
And then Bogarts was able to kind of, I guess, technically steal home on the play. So we scored on that play. We got a run to go up 2-0 at the end of the first, but Devers just looked like an idiot. I mean, getting caught in a pickle, it's just, it goes back to this base running stuff. Like, you see Devers like smiling and like acting like the 12-year-old kid he is on the field, but like these things cost us, because we could have had a way bigger inning with first and third with 2 outs. You don't know what could have happened. So that's just the kind of stuff that angers me. But Bogarts was able to steal home when they weren't looking, and Devers was able to hold them off for that long. So I guess more credit to him on that play. But do you want to go over what happened in the bottom of the first inning with, I guess the Garrett Richards experience and the Devers experience? Kind of shaky first half of the inning for the Sox on the pitching side.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go over that.
The Garrett Richards side of things, or?
Yeah, so Richards got off to a slow start again, and then you can get into the Devers error, because I'm pretty sure that happened in the same inning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's something I definitely noted, and I remember finding it funny when I saw it, and then watching the highlights again and seeing it. Devers they were in a situation where the second out, and that they got, but Devers didn't put his foot on base because he thought it was the third out, so he didn't need to. That's another one of those mistakes where it's like you see him smiling like a kid. Yeah, like he played great on the offensive end. You know, he did the whole series, but stuff like that, it's like there's kids that know that. That's like kind of like an obvious
Little League
to do. So
it's Little League. I mean, Garrett Richards just gave up back-to-back home runs, which is already another bad start for him.
Right.
And then now you're letting a man take seconds with no repercussions. And all it takes is one more swing of the bat and the O's have the lead again. So that really angered me. And I was watching that in the highlights, and I'm like we got the strikeout, and then Devers just catches the ball and starts to run off the field. I'm like, did he see like Bogarts running off the field? Like, what the heck made him move in that direction? Like, I was so confused. So thank God nothing came out of that, but we got to clean that stuff up. I mean, I'm fine with that happening in the first 10, 20 games, but once we leave April, if we're still making stupid mistakes like that, it's going to be an issue.
That was like elementary. Like, just seeing that, I was like, like that was another one of those Devers things where it stood out to me. I was like, wow, like, did he really just do that? Kind of like you've said, Smart, where Smart will do something good. He'll make a couple threes, and then he'll start taking really bad shots, or he'll start, flopping unnecessarily, or doing certain things to kind of try to spark something, but it in reality harms the team more than helps. I definitely think that's a good way to put it with Devers. That was another one, because obviously he was excellent hitting first game of the series and the second game, that same game, but for the positive side of things. But yeah, having those errors like that, the base running error and the out error, like that's stuff that I don't know, he should be more aware of, especially considering, like we said too, he's younger. On the last one, he is younger, but he's been on this team long enough and had enough experience, even in the World Series run and everything, knowing that like you shouldn't do stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think, like you said too, the 10 to 20 games, we'll kind of let it slide for now. But if this continues couple months into the season, that's definitely problematic, especially if we're playing, opponents that have really fast players or guys that are really on top of things or guys that can, have kind of a rip hit or a rip run. Like Devers needs to be more attuned to his surroundings. So.
And we can't be screwing around either because we're going to need everyone we can get. We're not like the Yankees. We're not like the Dodgers. We're not like the Astros, these teams that are guaranteed to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because we're on the outside looking in. I mean, let's be real. We're not as talented as those teams I just listed. So you could look back at the end of the year in October and think these mistakes cost us a few runs here and we could have won these games. And that if it's a close race, that's really going to come back to haunt us. So we got to get these things worked out. I'm sure Cora's talking to him about it. So after that, similar to game one in this series, both pitchers settled down in innings 2 through 5, and the O's put on actually a defensive clinic. We had a chance to score in the 4th inning, but the left fielder for the Orioles, Stewart, I think his first name's Ryan Stewart, I want to say. Let me take a look here. Stewart. DJ Stewart, he was able to get a good relay in to nail Marwin Gonzalez out at the plate, and if he scored, that would have put us up. And then in the next half inning, the Cedric Mullins show continues, and he was able to arguably take a home run away from Kike Hernandez. So, if you're an Orioles fan, I mean, look, this isn't an Orioles appreciation podcast, but you got to be happy about what you're seeing from your outfielders in the series.
Yeah, definitely. Between him and Santander, those guys can definitely make really smart catches, really good plays. That was another highlight for me, too, of that particular game was that Mullins catch. That was definitely like you said, too, like that could have been a home run for Kike, but he was able to get that and save them, honestly. Like, that was perfect.
Right, and there's no room for error on that play, honestly, because it was so close to either getting hit off the wall or going over. So for Mullins to make that play, I mean, so many people are going to say, like, all he did was just stand there and put his hand up or his glove up. That's a hard play to make, so more credit to him. Devers homers for the second time in as many nights. That's the next highlight. He helps us go up 3-2 in the 6th inning. Just great to see him getting going. I mean, it always seems like when the Red Sox need players to get hot the most, they always seem to do it either at Camden Yards or against the Orioles. I don't know why I called them the Orioles. That was weird. But Mookie Betts used to always do it when he was still on our team. I know Payne just hate to talk about him and being in another uniform, but he used to own Camden Yards. I remember like way back in the day, he had like 5 home runs in 2 days against the Orioles. Something that a player on the Red Sox did in this series, which we'll get into. So it's just great to see Devers getting going. Had him, he helped us get up in the series. What wasn't so good was Adam Ottavino, the new reliever we got from the Yankees. He did not have a good start to the season. I believe this was his debut against the Orioles in this series.
Yeah.
He struggled in the 8th inning. He gave up the lead to the Orioles. Stewart, who we just talked about, was able to get a double. And then Dahlback, who has really been non-existent so far this season, had a bad throw home trying to nail Stewart. And that ended up tying the game as Michael Franco got an RBI in that play. And then Freddie Galvis, the new addition for the Orioles, ends up giving them the lead with a single 4-3. So they head into the 9th. The Red Sox just had the lead snatched from them, and now we got to really pull a rabbit out of the hat to tie it here. Are you concerned about what Adam Ottavino did on Saturday night, or do you think he's going to get back to his old ways with, I believe, the White Sox and the other teams he's been with before the Yankees, where he was really good because that shortened season last year in 2020, he wasn't that good for the Yankees, but we were able to take him, and we're hoping he can produce like he did back in his White Sox days. So are you concerned with what you saw in that outing, or do you think it's just kind of a fluke?
So I was a little bit concerned, but I know the first game he played that I remember watching, they had him in the 8th inning as well, and he pitched really solid. And I believe that was against the Orioles in the first series. So
okay,
they horribly, but he had a good inning. I remember that being kind of a standout. I saw that on Instagram as like a kind of highlight that the Red Sox had on their page. But I don't know if I would call this necessarily a fluke. But but I think it's just a sign that, there needs to be room for improvement because he did pitch well in that first game where he was, I think that was his debut, that first game against the Orioles in that first series, but that game was kind of meaningless. This was, a moment where he needed to step up and he didn't. So I don't know. I think again, with him, it's something we should kind of watch and keep an eye on moving forward. But yeah, I was actually kind of excited by the Ottavino signing. Like you said, he was very solid before last year, having kind of a rough year, but I am definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do with this team. So yeah, I this game was rough to watch. That particular inning was another standout for me of that game, like a moment where I was a little bit tense. Like, I don't know if we're gonna win this one. But yeah, I think with Ottavino, really, we just gotta watch how he is going forward, and if we start seeing him do something similar to this more and more games where he's giving up leads, he's pitching horribly, we definitely need to look into finding someone else to put in. So
I agree. Again, I hope this outing isn't a sign of things to come for him for the rest of the season, but we traded for him from the Yankees and kind of like a low risk move. The Yankees needed to get rid of him for cap reasons, so we were able to pick him up. But we traded for him hoping that he's going to be one of our more reliable arms in the bullpen. So we're going to need to be relying on people like him, Matt Barnes, maybe Tanner Houck if he comes back in the mix, Garrett Whitlock, as I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
So if our best arms aren't on nights when we really need them to be, that's going to be hard for us to win games moving forward. But again, you can't expect everyone to be on every night they come in and play out of the pen. So I'm not too worried about it as well. I'm sure he'll be able to turn it around at some point. And then in the ninth, Cesar Valdez comes in for the Orioles, looking to close out the game. The Orioles are 3 outs away from taking another win from the Sox early in the year. But he tends to struggle in this inning. He gives up singles to Marwin Gonzalez. Franchi Cordero had a single, again, coming in a clutch moment in the ninth, and he was able to move Gonzalez from first to third. And then, what do you call it? I think Dahlbeck was able to hustle Bobby Dahlbeck in his best moment of the season so far. He's been non-existent so far. I know so many fans are hyping him up as like the rookie of the year, but his batting average is in the hundreds or whatever. So he is able to hustle out a grounder to keep this game alive. It would have been a double play if he had not reached first. So the Red Sox were able to tie it on that. Just, you got to applaud the hustle. I mean, so many people in that instance probably would have just been jogging it out. The third baseman made a nice play on it, so it really would have been hard to turn to anyways, because I think he had to dive and then get up and throw it. But it was good to see Dahlbeck run that one out. Nonetheless, we go to extra innings after that. Nothing else comes out of that inning. And in the 10th, Dylan Tate, I believe is his name. Let me quickly check on that. Yep, Dylan Tate comes in the game in relief for Valdez, and he ends up throwing a wild pitch that brings in Michael Chavis, who was called up to the big league team after JD was put on the COVID list for a day. Mm-hmm. So they got Chavis, the ice horse, as our good friend Jared Carabas likes to call him. He was able to score from home, or go from third to home on the wild pitch in the extra innings. And then Christian Vasquez, who quietly had a good series. I'm not sure how much we're going to talk about him here, but he quietly put together a great series, was able to get an RBI single to bring in an insurance run. And then my favorite guy, Matt Andriese, my favorite reliever, was able to close it out in the bottom of the 10th, and the Red Sox were able to take the series from the O's 6-4 in a comeback victory. I don't know if you have anything to add towards the end of that game, because there's a lot of chaos.
Yeah. Andriese, I mean, I'm kind of glad he hung in there. So, like you, I didn't know how to feel after his first appearance. It was rough. This one wasn't the best, but he did all right. I mean,
dare I say, Matt Andriese is clutch.
Yeah, that's kind of fair, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a weird game because the first two games, like we said, mirrored each other, where both teams scored in the first inning, cooled off for the middle innings, and then the offensive outpouring poured out in like innings 7 through 10. But nonetheless, the Sox were able to take the series, which is really all that matters this year. In years past, it's important for like these teams that the Sox put together to really win every game possible, because you want to build a gap from the other teams in the division to keep the division lead away from the Yankees and the Rays and the Blue Jays of the world. But this season, the Red Sox know who they are, and they got to feel pretty comfortable before this game, just knowing that they took the series. I mean, whatever happens in Game 3 of the series happens, which we're going to get into. But as long as the Red Sox can keep taking these series, they're going to be in good shape. That's all that matters. I mean, 2 or 3, 3 or 4. You don't need to go 3-0 and 4-0. I mean, it's all about just winning games, winning series, and keeping the momentum. So we get into the final game of the series, Game 3. It is Lopez versus Nick Pivetta, who put together a solid start in his debut, or not his debut with the Sox, his first pitching, his debut of the season. We talked about it in the last podcast. He wasn't great, but he didn't give up any runs. His control was a little bit of an issue, but you can't ask for much more than giving up 0 runs from your starting pitcher. And I believe he went 5 or 6 innings, which is good.
Yeah.
He comes into this game. He did okay. He went 6 innings, which is the farthest that any of the pitchers went in this series, the starting pitchers. One swing of the bat, which we'll get into later, kind of ruined his quality outing. He went from giving up 1 run to 4. But that's just this. If you're a fan of offense in the MLB, this is the game that you enjoy. I mean, 23 total runs. Devers and Martinez were able to get it done. We'll just start going over inning by inning. Devers opened up with a nice double play in the second inning. Verdugo opens up the scoring. Or actually, going back to the Devers double play, I mean, we give him a lot of slack for his kookiness on the field and, seeming like he's like an airhead out there. But that was a tough play at the hot corner. I mean, he caught it, then he had to do the quick relay to first. Dahlback with the stretch, and we just barely got the runner at first. So hopefully Devers is able to take a turn defensively. I feel like I'm just kind of embellishing or wishful thinking by thinking he can become a Gold Glove third baseman. But all I just want is some consistency from Devers at third. So hopefully we can get that. And then in the third inning, Verdugo opens up with his first home run of the 2021 campaign, and he's able to put us up 3-0 in the third. It was a 3-run home run. And then right after him, JD Martinez goes back-to-back. So JD continues his hot start. Just unbelievable stuff from him so far this season. And then, do you want to talk about the Nick Pivetta play at the plate? I don't know if you saw that, where he's able to stop the run from scoring, and he did a great job covering the plate. I don't know if you want to get into that.
He did a nice job with that. Yeah, I don't have a ton to really say about that, but yeah, that was definitely clutch to be able to pull that off. Yeah.
I think it was a smart play from the veteran too. I mean, he talked about in his post-game interview that when he was running to the plate to cover the plate from Galvis scoring, he made sure his feet were blocking so that Galvis couldn't try and sneak his foot under him or whatever. So he was able to catch the ball and just tag Galvis right away. So just a clutch play from the veteran. Holds the O's to 0 on the board. And then JD is able to add to his RBI total with the single in the 5th, making it 5-1 Red Sox, jumping ahead a bit. And then Lopez, after that, is out after giving up 7 runs in 4+ innings. Just not a good outing from him.
Right.
Devers then follows out that once we get into the bullpen for the Orioles, hitting his 3rd home run of the series. Just unbelievable stuff. We've all been waiting for Devers really to get going early in the season. We didn't see it in 2020 where it really took him until September to figure it out. So it's just refreshing to see him 10 games into the season, getting a rhythm going, and hopefully he can keep this going in the next series and the preceding series after that. And then JD Martinez hits another opposite field homer to lead off the 6th, his 2nd of the game. We talked about this in text messages earlier. That's just the power of giving JD Martinez his iPad back, because he's able to review his tape from how he's swinging the bat and all the hitting mechanics. So it's really doing wonders for him. And I mean, I got to give him credit for the opposite field power, because that's hard to do. And I mean, he's taken it 300, 400 feet to the opposite field. That's pretty impressive, if you ask me.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then we get to a little bit of the ugliness where Pivetta lets the O's back in the game a bit with one swing of the bat by Michael Franco, ruining his decent outing. So instead of giving up 1 earned run, he goes six innings and gives up 4 runs. It's still 10-4 at this point. And then Austin Bruce for the Orioles is roughed up in 2/3 of an inning. as Mancini homers to make it 10-7 in the seventh. And then, or Austin Bryce, for the Red Sox. So he also allows the Orioles to creep back in this game, as we talked about at the top of this podcast, where the O's just really have trouble going away and are just kind of like a thorn in the Sox side. And then, just as you think things are getting a little too close, JD homers save the day. His third home run of the game, straightaway center, just unbelievable stuff. And then back-to-back again with Devers, or not back-to-back, but later in the inning, Devers is able to really play it out of reach with his second homer of the day, his third of the series, fourth of the series, so 4 homers in 3 games. And then at that point, it's 14-7 at the very end of this. Philip Valdez comes in the ninth. No need to use Barnes when it's not a close game. And he did struggle a bit. He gave up 2 runs in the ninth, but nonetheless, the Sox crushed the O's 14-9 and finished off the series sweep. So just an all-around good showing offensively for the Sox. I'm not too impressed with the pitching. That really needs to be a focal point moving forward. Mm-hmm. But, you don't have to worry about it now when your team's scoring 10, 12, 14 runs. You can give up a few runs here and there, more than you'd like. So hopefully we can nail that down, but just unbelievable. I mean, JD Martinez, he's got to be the MVP at this point. It's ridiculous. Good to see Devers going. Vasquez and Bogarts had quiet series, but they were really good. And I mean, this team, just to touch on this quickly, this team's just giving me like 2016 vibes where we didn't have the best pitching. This was David Ortiz's final season, but we had a powerhouse of an offense that was really able to carry us and win games. But as you know what happened at the end of that season, the Indians ended up sweeping us, and our pitching got exposed because, if you throw Rick Porcello, David Price, and Clay Buchholz in the playoffs, obviously your team's going to get smoked. So your offense has to keep up in a shootout, and that's not always the best formula. So nonetheless, a good sweep for the Red Sox. We have won 6 straight after losing the first 3 to the Orioles. Let's get into our best players of the series. So who are your best players for the Sox in the series? If you had to pick 2 or 3.
So my 2 best players, and they're players we've talked about a decent amount, probably the most for the Sox in this particular podcast. I have JD Martinez, obviously, for his continued dominance. As I was looking up his stats earlier, I was just amazed. He's leading in home runs in the AL right now. He's leading in RBIs. I mean, his batting average is insane right now. The 3-homer game, he just can't go wrong so far this season. I'm really happy to see JD slugging because I loved watching him play in that 2018 season. He was such a key addition, a great free agent signing for that Sox team to help them get another guy. And I know in 2019 he still was an all-star level player and he was still having a solid year, still hit a lot of home runs, although the Red Sox underperformed. And then last year was just so disappointing. And yeah, like you said, we talked about with the iPad and things, you can really see JD getting his game back. And that's just so awesome to see. And Devers, I had as my second player. Now, we did talk about a few of his errors. Obviously, he had the base running error. He had the physical defensive error, which was really bad. But you can't go without saying, his 2 home runs in that one game. He had another home. I mean, he's been hitting great, especially in this series. I hope his offense continues to heat up as it has been thus far, and hopefully the defense gets a little bit better. But you did mention the double play he had. That was a standout moment for me with Devers, for sure. So.
Yeah, my players of the game or players of the series were pretty similar. I had JD Martinez being far and above number 1. I mean, just ridiculous. 3 home runs in one game. Just absolutely crazy. Just really hitting the ball well, and it's just so refreshing to see. I mean, the Red Sox, we often give them crap for how many bad contracts they've given out over the last decade. I mean, Carl Crawford, Adrian Gonzalez, Pablo Sandoval, Hanley Ramirez, all those contracts come to mind, but JD Martinez was kind of a steal when we got him at $110 million for 5 years. I mean, that's only $22 million a year. And other than 2020, which was a screwy season for everyone, he's been really consistent for us. 43 homers in 2018 when he won the World Series. He could have competed for Betts with the MVP. He had 36 home runs in 2019 in a season where he underperformed. But as you said, he was an all-star, and he was having another great season. And that's really all you can ask out of him again. Mm-hmm. And then he's off to a hot start again this season. So just love to see that from JD. I did also put Devers as one of my better players, but I had to put an asterisk next to his name for reasons you said and I said about the stupid errors and blunders. But he's hitting the ball well, and that's all I can really be happy about at this moment. And then I said Matt Barnes is my pitcher player pick because he came in games 1 and game 2. Excellent in the 9th in game 1. Game 2, he just shut him down. So just can't ask for much more than Matt Barnes from Matt Barnes. I mean, he's had his ups and downs, as we talked about in his Red Sox career, where he's made your heart rate go up and he's made you feel confident. But just great to see him doing great things. How about for the Orioles? Who would you say were your players of the series? I mean, I know they had a rough one, so it might be hard to pick some people. Yeah. But if you had to pick, who would it be?
So my number one player for the Orioles, and we talked about him a decent amount in this video, is Cedric Mullins. I think thus far he's been an excellent player for that team. Looking too at stats, he's kind of right behind JD with hits, and RBIs, and a few other categories, right in that upper echelon of AL East and just AL players in general. From what I saw, and you can tell too that he's playing out of his mind. Just his defensive efforts, like we talked about, the diving catch he had, the catch to stop the Kike Hernandez potential home run. He had some great defensive plays in the first Sox Orioles series too. But yeah, his offense too has been really productive. He is definitely been the Orioles probably their most solid player this year. And just a second, one of their other outfield, obviously Santander. He had a solid year last year, and this year it looks like he's off to a solid start too. His defense in the outfield is pretty commendable, just like Mullins is. Not a terror. He was okay behind the plate, but yeah, I think if I were to pick two, those would definitely be my two. And I think this season so far, those are probably the two players that if I were to pick just based on the Orioles games I've seen, which was against the Sox in the 2 series. Yeah, that's who I'd pick. So I don't know who you had, but
yeah, I mean, those are great picks and those are right up there, but just I guess for the sake of variety, I'll pick Trey Mancini. He put together a 4 RBI game in the final game of the series. I think he had a hit in all 3 games, and again, just this comeback story is great. I hope they consider renaming the Comeback Player of the Year award to the Trey Mancini Award, because for him to come back and play from after having cancer and dealing with that for a year, a bleed during a pandemic, is really impressive for what he's done so far. Yeah, Michael Franco also had a decent series. He had a 4 RBI game yesterday, and then he had an RBI, I think, in game 2. And as someone who was once forgotten and played for the Phillies, I kind of hope he revives his career in a way here in Baltimore. And then for a pitcher, I mean, a lot of their pitchers got rocked. Same with the Red Sox this series. But I'll just say Zimmerman, the guy who started game 2, he went 6 innings. I think he only gave up 2 runs, I want to say. So, he gave us trouble, which got to give him credit for that. So those will be my 3. And just, I guess, get into a few extracurricular stuff. We'll finally talk about MLB.com. Just really disrespect on the Sox so far. It's just kind of ridiculous. You sent me a picture today talking about like the rankings for the MLB so far and like the power rankings after the first 9 or 10 games that every team has played. So I'll give you the floor to talk about that and why the Red Sox should be given more respect.
Right. So today I was I sometimes when I go to get lunch, I just check my phone after my classes and stuff because I don't look at it then and whatnot. So I like to just look in on the Red Sox and Celtics and whatnot and see what's going on around the league. I check Twitter mainly for sports stuff because outside of that, it's a horrible app, honestly. But
NBA Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, NBA Twitter is horrible. But I was looking at MLB power rankings because I was interested to see, because we're a week into the season. We're 9-10 games depending on the teams into the season. I wanted to see where the Red Sox, where are the Orioles at? Where are the Yankees? Obviously, AL East teams and just other teams around the league, and NL and AL teams like the Dodgers and whatnot. Obviously, they're off to a hot start, per expected. But I was really shocked at two placements in particular. MLB.com had the Red Sox at number 20 and the San Francisco Giants at number 22. And what I didn't like about that is both of those teams are currently 6-3. And in the Red Sox case, they're the division leader right now. Whether people want to say, the sweep at the beginning or not, if you look at their stats as well, the amount of runs they've scored and their RBIs, their total home runs collectively as a team, in a lot of those categories, they're leading the AL, not just the AL East. So to put a team like that at 20, and then their description for the Yankees was ridiculous. Basically, what they just said is, they'll shake off the dust, but they've lost a lot of games. I mean, what are they, 4-5 right now? I mean, that's not horrible. Obviously, that's how I kind of thought the Red Sox were going to start, to be honest. But to just because it's the Yankees, put them as high as they did, I think that's honestly like really stupid. Like, you can't. I understand the Yankees are the Yankees. They're a money making team. Their roster's insane, and let's face it, they're gonna heat up and be a dominant team per usual. But it shocked me that the Red Sox were so low after having such a solid turnaround, and same with teams like the Giants. And I know CBS Sports too had some rankings too that were pretty. Most of the rankings I saw had the Red Sox 20 or below, and you'd think that was just based off the first 3 games. But yeah, I don't know what you think about all the rankings and things, but I think just to put teams that are performing as well as the Red Sox and Giants are, to put them that low is just disrespectful, honestly.
Yeah, I think these people need to lose their credibility. I mean, like, I call that shots fired or whatever, but these people, these authors or whatever you want to call them, these analysts, they think it's September, where, yes, realistically in September, the Red Sox could be ranked 20th and the Giants could be ranked 22. Right. But you're getting paid to do the power rankings week by week. And we've only had a little over 1 week of the season, and 2 of the more impressive teams in the league so far are the Red Sox and the Giants, as you just talked about. So to have them not in the upper echelon of the power rankings is just straight up ridiculous and disrespectful. I mean, we're 6-3, both teams. As you said, we're leading in a lot of categories offensively. And surprisingly, it might have changed after yesterday's game probably, but we were first in like bullpen ERA in the AL. It was like 2.84, which is ridiculous. I mean, I can't believe that was we all thought the bullpen was going to be our kryptonite, but yeah, they came out and they balled out in the first 10 games. So it's just ridiculous that they're not giving us our respect so far. But in the words of Jared Carrabis, go subscribe to his podcast, by the way, don't let the Red Sox get hot. I mean, we're going to surprise some people this year, I think. We've talked about we don't know if we're going to make the playoffs or not, but you got to be encouraged from what you've seen by the Sox so far. After a few terrible seasons or a few hard-to-watch seasons for our favorite baseball team, they're starting to bring a smile on my face again. It's just good to see them having fun, enjoying being around each other. I'm not going to compare them to this team, but it's reminiscent of the 2013 team when a bunch of clubhouse guys got together and just had a grand old time, and they ended up winning the World Series. So it's just ridiculous. I mean, you're getting paid to analyze what's happening right now. We're rational fans. We understand that, there's a very good chance we don't make the playoffs this year and even next year. But you have to give us respect so far for how hot of a start we've gone off to. And I mean, Boston sports are notorious for getting off to the slowest starts in sports. I mean, Patriots are always slow starts. Bruins, I guess you could say sometimes they get off to hot starts. But the Celtics and the Red Sox, I mean, just let us have this. Come on, MLB.com. But I guess they don't want us to have fun.
Yeah, and two, adding on to that, something that I also saw too is JD Martinez actually got
thank you to my cousin for the support, by the way, but continue.
JD Martinez actually got named AL Player of the Week too, which again is surprising to me that the Red Sox were that low. Because again, if you have like one of the top ranked Player of the Week, like why are you so low on the power rankings? That just didn't make sense.
Right.
So I don't know.
Like, oh, we have the AL Player of the Week. Oh, cool, you're 22nd or 20th. Yeah. That makes no sense. But
because I know Tatum with the Celtics too got
Player of the Week.
Player of the Week too. So I guess shout out those guys for some positives in Boston sports. So yeah, it's been an awful week.
No, I agree. And we all thought the Red Sox were just going to disappoint us again. But as we talked about, because of the fact they had no expectations, they've been overperforming, and it's been fun to watch because no one in Boston expects that much from them. And it's been fun. I mean, I like the guys they brought in, Marwin Gonzalez, Kike Hernandez. Verdugo is going to take another step forward when he's going to be a big part of our future. Tanner Houck looked good, and we'll definitely see him again at some point this year. So there's a lot to be intrigued about in Boston for the future. Whether we see immediate results this year or if it's in a few years, I don't love, but I like what Chaim Bloom is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So last question, and this kind of goes off what we just talked about. Is it still too early to take the Red Sox seriously?
Ooh, I've been thinking about that actually. Just thus far, I don't know.
Because we've faced the Orioles, arguably the worst team in the league, for 6 of our first 9 games.
Right.
So the argument could be made that the only real competition we faced was the Rays, and we took care of business against them, but people could argue that was a fluke. So what do you think about that?
My take on it is I think thus far they should be taken. They should have more respect than obviously we've been seeing
by the analysts.
Yeah, by the analysts. But I think we'll see how they do against Minnesota. Now I don't know how that series is going to play out, obviously because of the social unrest there, which is completely understandable that the city would halt sporting events and do what's right in that. So. I don't know if that series will get completely postponed or called off, or if they'll play tomorrow and the rest, because it was going to be a 4-game series. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be 3 or even 2 or even a game. Who knows? I think for me, how I'm going to take it is let's see how they play against Minnesota, because that's a solid team. That has a good offense in particular, which is something that might be difficult for their pitching staff, as we talked about with their pitching being a little weak. That'd be an interesting series to see. And I think too, I'm not sure who the Sox are playing after the Twins.
Chicago.
Okay, so team. So we'll see how they do against the Twins and Chicago and teams moving forward. Looking at the schedule, it didn't look like they play the Yankees for a while. So we'll just see how they continue to do, I guess. I'd say give them to about 20, 25 games, around that range. And then once we're 20 plus, 25 plus games, then I think it's fair. I think you get a pretty good indication of how the team's going to be.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like we need to wait until the end of April to truly take it seriously. Yeah. But you can also acknowledge the fact, and this is for the whole MLB community, that our offense is going to be a power knot or a juggernaut again. I mean, it seems like this is the strongest part of the Sox for years now, where our offense has always been prosperous, whereas our pitching has always struggled. But I think, again, I mean, even though it's an early sample size, we put up a ton of runs in all 9 games. We kept it competitive in most of the 9 games with scoring a ton of runs. So we have some tough series coming up against the White Sox if we play the Twins, also the Blue Jays, and then at the end of April, we face the Mets in a 2-game set. So how we perform in those series, I think, can really determine what our true identity can be as a team. Often teams, MLB executives talk about, you can really determine what your team is capable of at the end of April and how well you perform then. So our record and our performance level is going to be indicative, or our record and our performance level at the end of April is going to be indicative of what we can do this year. It's going to be an uphill battle because, as we've said, there's New York, there's Toronto, even Tampa. They're all in the way in our division, but we've held our own so far. And this has been a fun year. We're going to learn a lot. This year's going to help Chaim Bloom a lot, determine what to do for the future. So It's going to be exciting. So that's going to wrap it up for this recap. Love to see it. Red Sox recap. Red Sox defeat the Orioles, sweep them, second straight sweep, 6-game winning streak. At some point in the future, we're not sure when it will be, but we will be doing another Red Sox recap either sometime next week or later this week with either the Red Sox versus the Twins or the Red Sox versus the White Sox. And let me just remind you to hit that like button, absorb that subscribe button. I'm not just done getting rid of Sponge 401 yet, even though we're doing a rebrand with In Depth with David. Got to keep that going. All the sponge soakers in the world. So yeah, also Celtics recaps are coming soon. Hopefully Patriots recaps in the future. Bruins playoffs potentially. And some reality TV since that's coming back. My 2 favorite shows in later summer and early fall. So more shows are coming to this channel. But that's going to do it for today. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Thank you again, Ricky, for joining me. We'll do this again soon. Now, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day.